Patch 1423 is here, and we're taking a look at how it will impact some mid lane champions. Azir gets a big buff to his AP ratios on W Arise. This typically means that when a champion's ability is buffed with a scaling ratio, it's going to improve with items and game length. And Azir was already a champ that was scaling relatively well in the late game anyway, but this buff might cause him to improve in win rate and perhaps appear in more of your games. So just looking back a little bit at what W has been over the years, there's been damage tweaks to it, attack speed, introductions, removals, and even more that's happened. Its scaling with AP ratio, however, is relatively new. This came out in 1418, where it went from 55% at all ranks down to scaling up to 55. Now it's scaling up to 60. It starts at a flat rate of 40%. But even in those older patches, Azir never really had an amazing win rate. It was sitting around 49%. That's taking into account that other aspects of his kits were different too. So it's hard to say this is going to put him over the top, but it's worth keeping an eye on. Up next, we're taking a special look at Kog'Maw. While the patch note was probably mostly intended for the ADC role, if you were like me and enjoyed picking AP Kog as a flavorful mid lane counter and annoyance to other champs that maybe didn't like to interact, and Smolders, Malzahars, and Teemos, you all know who you are. You're getting punished this patch thanks to the ADCs abusing the power of AP Kog. Kog's Q no longer removes as much armor and magicals until rank 4 or 5, which isn't a huge problem in the mid lane. It will certainly have a bigger impact in bot lane, but it's the E nerf where we're starting to get sad. He got a full damage nerf at each rank and scales weaker with AP from 70% down to 65. This is your wave clear and your damage tool as an AP caster in mid lane. And while it certainly doesn't completely kill Kog, I'm not as excited to play it mid anymore. You used to trade your immobility for long-range AP damage, and now giving up a huge chunk of that means other mages will just be a better play mid. The note from Riot says the nerf is intended to keep both builds viable, which may be true, but for an already niche mid lane pick to lose value, it means you might want to get creative with your picks elsewhere. For the AD players though, yeah, AP Kog's still on the table. And finally, we're welcoming Aurora back to the mid lane. Yeah, I know she didn't technically leave mid lane, but she was more of a top laner for the patch. These changes are labeled as an adjustment, and it will certainly take some getting used to. Aurora's passive movement speed on champion hit has been removed. No longer will you be stacking 3 abilities or autos on a champion to become a kiting, run you down killer. This fundamentally changes Aurora's playstyle, which on release was definitely overtuned, but then settled into the kiting engagement style of play we saw appear in Pro. To compensate for the movement speed removal, Aurora is getting a slight damage buff on her Q, 2 full hex, and 50 added range. This should give her a more reliable way to trade in the mid lane, where she's fallen out of favor due to the short length of the lane. Not to completely remove her mischievous kiting, W across the veil now will grant movement speed on casts. This gives her a more accessible and consistent form of movement speed, but also tapers her total MS, gained from hitting a champ multiple times or hitting multiple champs. E, the weirding, is also getting a flat range increase of 25. This is used primarily as a disengage tool, but this grants Aurora a little more safety and perhaps slightly more incentive to use the ability to rescue. R, Between Worlds, is no longer a cage, but a slow when enemies exit a ring. The 75% slow applies for 1.5 seconds and scales up to a full 4 seconds at rank 3. Casting Between Worlds will also grant Aurora across the veil's movement speed, and the area of Between Worlds will last longer, starting at 2 full seconds and scaling up to 4 seconds at rank 4. Duration is more resembling of her release timings, which proved to be a nightmare for the enemy team. 4 full seconds is a very long time. I expect these adjustments to bring her back to the mid lane and away from the top lane, as kiting out bruisers and tanks will not be as viable, and instead trading with longer range mids is slightly more possible. The R will continue to be incredibly valuable regardless of where she's played. And that's it for this look at patch notes. Thanks for watching.